We all know those mums. They're super organised, on top of everything, really calm, cool, collected mums. Those ones that get to school every day, the homework's always done, their children are impeccably dressed, and there's never a hair out of place. They're on every committee going, and their children attend every after-school club imaginable. Well, I'm not that mum. I'm the one that's always late to school, and being early means arriving just as the school bell rings. Yes, I try to get up a little bit earlier, but actually it just means that more time for more chaos to develop. My children barely have their hair brushed, but they get to school. And when they do get there, they tend to be those ones in the playground that actually have those few choice words to say, which you really wish they wouldn't. And all four of them have done this at some point. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. And yes, I did say 4 children. But I'm also the mum, on a more serious note. A mum that's walking around the town at 10 PM at night, following at a safe distance behind her 11-year-old child, who's just had the most unimaginable meltdown, who has found superhuman strength and ripped a radiator clean off the wall, put a hole in the roof, thrown objects and furniture and books at my husband, his father. We've been bitten, punched, kicked, bruised and battered. We are the parents of an autistic child. Our son has a profile which fits with pathological demand avoidance, which means that every day, demands such as put your shoes on or go into the park, somewhere he loves to go, the skate park, can actually mean he can't cope. His anxiety is that high that even something he wants to do, he cannot do, and it can result in either a shutdown, he closes in on himself and stops talking for days, sometimes weeks, or we can have a violent meltdown. But I never feared it. I never feared his diagnosis. In the past couple of years, we've learnt a lot and we've been through a lot. We've watched our child change from a quiet, shy child to a child that is unrecognisable as a child. But we never feared what his future had, because we live in an inclusive world. We live in a world that promises hope, that allows everybody the same opportunity. Everyone has the right to an education. Everyone has the right to life. Everyone has the right to be passionate and enjoy and be fulfilled. But what does it mean, really, inclusion? What does it mean to everybody in this room? Well, the Collins English Dictionary definition of inclusion is the act of making someone or something part of a group or collective. The thing that stands out there is making. Can we make people? Can we force conformity? Can we make people involved in society? And that's when we realised something. That's what we were doing. We've been through 4 different schools. We've moved house, moved areas, trying to keep our family together, trying to include our son with his siblings, so that he had the right and he could enjoy life and do everything that had been promised to him. But what we'd done was exclude him through inclusion. Through this time, we realised that we were going through a process. Step 1, acceptance. It's taken a long time to truly accept his diagnosis. And to do that, the only way we could do was to research and learn and talk to people. We joined groups, we joined social media. We found all sorts of different things that could equip us and help us understand what was going on. But actually what we found was deeper and darker. That there are hundreds, thousands of families up and down the country, all over the world, that are lost in the system, that are beaten and betrayed and heartbroken, and these children are suffering. They don't want to be like this. They need our help and our support. That there are siblings that are suffering higher levels of anxiety because they're scared of their own sibling. The moment it hit home for our family was when our 5-year-old turned round to us and said, "Mummy, I'm scared. I don't want you to get hurt anymore." That was heartbreaking. But that, along with knowing we weren't alone and that there was others just like us, that we were united and that we had a different perspective to life allowed us to actually accept. And it didn't matter what the diagnosis was, ADHD, autism, PDA, sensory processing disorder. It didn't matter. What mattered was the person and where we went from there. That's step 2. Step 2 is to understand. Now, a common thing most SEND parents are told is, you need to get in their head, look through the world through their eyes. Well, how do you do that when a child stops talking? How do you do that when the child doesn't understand those emotions, those feelings? They can't put into words, they can barely draw it. How do you do that? How do you get inside somebody else's head? Well, we actually realised we didn't need to. As our lives developed, our son's anxiety was growing, and as his anxiety grew, our anxiety grew. As his depression took hold, our depression took hold. As this happened, he stopped attending school. He stopped having a social life. He lost friends. We had to change our jobs. We had to change our life. We had to move house. We lost social groupings. Our lives were running parallel. We didn't need to understand. We were feeling the same. Our entire family, our siblings, his siblings, our children were the same. They were losing clubs and social activities, and they were becoming affected. The whole family was going through the same thing. So we didn't need to understand, because we already did, we just didn't know it. And when we looked at it properly, we realised that the 4 school placements failing, although the teachers had tried, and the schools had tried, and the children had tried, what we realised was nothing was really changing, because the world wasn't set up for it yet. So we tried a SEND school, a specialist school for children with mental health and autism, and other conditions. And for the first time we saw our child come alive. It'd been 3 years since we'd seen him laugh and joke on a regular basis. And it could have been any school with the right trained teachers and the right attitude and the right equipment. So it doesn't matter that it was a specialist school, but it was that there was a tribe. There was a group of children that were different, all different in their different ways, and all similarities in similar ways. But they were together and they weren't alone. Instead of him being the outsider, he was on the inside of something for a change. And that allowed him the process that came next, where he could be part of something. And that leads us to step 3, inclusion. So, inclusion isn't a full-time teaching assistant with a child that has special needs. Inclusion isn't a classroom on the side of a school that's just for children with SEN. Inclusion isn't a specialist school. Inclusion isn't standing in Sainsbury's and apologising for your child having an autistic meltdown. Inclusion is accepting. All that is doing is highlighting the differences to the perceived mainstream. It's reinforcing that he's wrong and different and bad, and he's not. At all. No child is. Inclusion is accepting and realising that our lives can be richer if we just allow a little bit of diversity in. Inclusion is realising that the things that we could change wouldn't affect our lives, but they could make a big difference to somebody else. So think about it. If you're in Sainsbury's and there's not the music playing and there's not really bright lights, would it affect you? But it could make a huge difference to somebody else. If a museum up and down the country, if they opened for the first hour, which was pre-bookable only to people that couldn't tolerate crowds. If classrooms allowed children to move around and sit on chairs, balls instead of chairs, and interact with their learning rather than sat at a desk, how could that improve? Our world has changed dramatically, but our school system has barely changed in recent times. But that's a whole nother TED Talk. So, inclusion is everywhere if we want it to be. So back to those mums at the beginning. We've got the one that's wearing the makeup and organising life to a complete T and everything works fine on the outside. But all she's doing is what the rest of us are doing. Is using that as a battle armour. It's something to hide the scars. Mine was my humour, my cup of coffee, and my fight to include my son. Yours could be something completely different. But we're all just people. We're all just human. And we're all just trying to find our way in this crazy world. So whether you have a diagnosis or not, we're all the same really, but we've all got individual differences. So what can we do? How can we get inclusion? True inclusion for each and every individual. Well, it starts here today. Everybody in this room has the opportunity to make a small difference. If you follow the steps, accept your own differences and that of your neighbours. Accept your similarities and that of your friends. Once you accept, you're more open to understand. And when you understand that you're different and the same, and that it doesn't matter how you are different or how you are the same, you can truly make a difference. When you put those two principles in, step 1, accept, step 2, understand, and you put it into practice, everybody in this room can make a difference. You can make and actively include someone. You can think how you can adapt and change your environment, your attitude, to help yourself and others. And then, and only then, by one, one person making one step, one difference, we will change the world together.